Good afternoon, Scott Baker, Jen Chatwell. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, Mikey.
And I'm in Pittsburgh. Mikey is in Dallas. And, and Jen, are you in Maryland? Do I remember that correctly?
I am in St. Michael's, Maryland.
There we go. Yeah. So, and I spent a lot of my teenage years over near that part. I was trying to establish where our home fields were because, as you can see on the screen, if you're watching live right now, we're talking about creating the home field advantage. And creating is the part here because home field we know about, but the idea that a leader can actually play a role in giving their team a home field advantage, not an idea that I had really ever thought of before. We are going to talk about the power of the home field advantage in general, but then we'll see where we go with this. So, Mikey, out of the gate, I don't know that St. Michael's, Maryland, has a rival football team to the Dallas Cowboys or your beloved 49ers,
Right.
or the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you're close enough to the Washington football team to count, I would think, Jen.
True, and a lot of Ravens fans were.
That's true as well. Yeah.
Baltimore and DC. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think of this, Jen? This whole idea that when a team knows that people are rooting for them, they do better.
What I love about this is that it's not the home field. It's not about the place. It's about the people, right?
Mhm. Yes, right. Good.
That was my big takeaway from today's field note is not necessarily where the stadium is, it's who's in the stadium. I think the World Cup right now is a really great illustration of this
Yeah, yeah.
practice, right? Because these stadiums are in Dallas and New Jersey and Atlanta. I think that is starting right now in Atlanta.
Yeah, right.
And that stadium, it doesn't matter. It's in Atlanta. It matters that it's filled with fans of the English team and fans of Argentina.
Yeah, and yesterday's game was in Dallas, wasn't it, Mikey?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And we've been getting some, high praise about the stadium that's over in Arlington. People seem to really like it, but I don't think there is like one thing about that stadium of like where the sun sets that's kind of famous about the sun always being in the quarterback's eyes. And I think, awareness of that might actually not be people based, but more like location based. But this observation that Jen makes around the home field advantage really is about fan support. I also thought, and I haven't looked it up against the research that we're talking about here, but I've always thought as a fan that I could influence the officiating.
Right.
And so the home field advantage becomes like me yelling at an official. Now, I don't think we'd get any umpires association here.
No, there's research around that.
Oh,
there is research around it. Yeah, it's not. I mean, let me just real quick before we kind of dive into the leadership applications, and Jen can guide us into the organizational impact here. But the field note is kind of giving the idea that if you do look, particularly coming out of COVID, like when teams kind of didn't have their fans in the stands, some of that home field advantage seemed to go away. Right. So you're like, oh, this is a real thing. It's when the hometown crowd is cheering for you, you tend to do well. Right. And so the field note then says, well, what can leaders do to let their teams really know? How can they recruit people? And we'll talk about that into kind of being more visible supporters of an endeavor, of a team, of a division, whatever that may look like. Now, it is a little more complicated than just it's great to have fans in the stands, because it does say that the audience not only is cheering for you, they are discouraging the opponents for all kinds of reasons, not just like waving their arms when you're shooting a foul shot, but also because they do actually create an influence on the referees. And they did study that actually in those games, that without having the hometown crowd there, the officiating changes. So it's not just it wasn't just Mikey alone influencing the officials.
Right. No, you would certainly hope that the visiting team would feel that hostility coming from you as a home field advantage, but the hostility being felt by the umpire, by the officiating crew, is something that probably really does affect them if they're wondering about if they're going to safely make it out of the building. Like it's definitely going to affect. So, but this brings up for us in a leadership context more around our fanness framework.
Yeah,
and I would,
right.
Jen, if you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to just give an overview of our fanness framework, because this talks about one in particular behavior that we can kind of lean into. But knowing that we've got a bigger framework is probably important for people to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what motivates fans to influence refereeing and to cheer for the home team and to be hostile towards the opponents, but investment, right? So, I mean, they're invested in whether you win or lose, they're invested in the success of the team. And that investment, I think, is what I'm taking out of today's field note as well. So fanness as a framework, we talk about, admired leaders, the best leaders, being fans of the people that they lead, the people they coach, the people they develop. It's beyond wanting to see people do well at their work, succeed on the job. It's wanting them to succeed in everything they do, their relationships, their goals and ambitions outside of work, running the marathon they've always wanted to. Knowing those things first matters. Cheering for those things, visibly, not awkwardly, but, knowing what matters to people and being a fan of those things is a framework that we talk about a lot when we talk about admired leadership.
And not just being fans when they're winning. Correct.
Yes. It matters just as much when you're a fan of somebody when they don't have wind in their sail, right? When they're going through a hard time. This to me is interesting. The field note kind of extrapolates that idea and talks about garnering fanness of an organization, right? So it's not about an individual leader and the people they lead. It's about leaders and the stakeholders around which the organization is surrounded, cultivating them into fans themselves. And through this whole idea of invitation, right? Inviting people to come into the arena, to get out of the parking lot, stop tailgating, get in here, start cheering, start, fussing, start talking to the refs and all those other things. And it made me think about, tell me if you think this is a silly kind of comparison, but I do a lot of work with organizations in the life sciences and biotech space. And
that's just a silly example. No, I am pulling for this example. No, I love it.
Well, no, some of the really the most powerful ways I've seen these organizations make fans out of stakeholders is by drawing a connection between employees and the people we serve, right? So the patients,
right,
are changed by the therapies that they're creating and the technology,
and their families. Like it's a wide net.
Yeah, exactly. So the connection between the folks that are doing the work, the folks that are benefiting from the work, and it works, it's mutually reinforcing, right? The patients get as much from coming onto campus to share their story and about why whatever therapy is, changing their lives and helping them lead a better life. They get as much from touring the labs in which employees are doing the work to research and develop and things like that. So, I focused in on the idea of invitation and how you involve people in the work that you're doing in order for that. It's not about creating strategic buy-in as much as it's about them being in the room, feeling, touching, understanding the end impact of the work that your organization is doing. And that's kind of that's where I went to when I read the field note this morning. Let me stop. Tell me what you think.
I like it. It makes me think of all the places where I've seen this work out, like the Disney animator studio. Sometimes when you're on that tour, you walk by and you see people actually working and doing the animation. It almost looks like they're a zoo exhibit and you're watching it and you're looking. And I always wondered, what do the animators, what are the people who are working, right? The same thing happens at the Lego factory. Similar things happen at the Hershey factory, right? But when you're watching these people work, you might get the idea that, oh, this is a weird and awkward thing. But I do now think, because of what you just said here, Jen, that actually might take on a role of like, I've got real purpose. Like what I'm doing really matters here. Even though I'm just working the line out of Chocolate Factory, this is a big enough deal for fans to come in and take a tour. This work really matters.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy for a lot of leaders to default to information and presentation when they are trying to convince you that the work that they're doing is meaningful, valuable, worth investing in, worth becoming a part of, worth being a fan of. But this idea of invitation and involvement, I think, is so much more powerful, right? It's forget the slideshow, forget the press release, forget the, investor relations report. When's the last time you brought someone who otherwise would be a bystander to your work and got them in the room with you? let them feel and touch and see and experience what, the folks on your team are experiencing every day, and vice versa. Again, getting the employees out of the office, off campus, to really understand the lives that they're changing. And I know the biotech and life sciences is powerful because of the work that it does, right?
Mhm.
But this is true for any organization, no matter what you're creating and what service or product you're offering.
Well, and the field note has that great line that the stands just don't fill themselves. It's not like it just happens. Many people listening or watching right now would be like, well, yeah, I'm not in life sciences, or there's not a clear application. I don't make anything cool like chocolate, so how could that work? And the field note mentions a few things that might even seem a bit of a reach, but they're not if you just pause and think about it, because it's talking about not only the customers and clients, because that's true, but also extended family members. It can be colleagues from other areas in the firm. I like the idea of not only board members, but also this idea of alumni. And I think sometimes organizations are a little shy on that, maybe not in the academic areas, but I've always liked the idea that Naval talks about this, Ravikant, that can you gauge a firm by its alumni network? So some people are like, oh, our best people have left, let's never talk about them again. Other firms talk about them all the time. They celebrate them. You came here, you did an incredible thing. It set you up for your next chapter. Maybe they become legendary. Bring those people back in, because those names are talked about. And when you bring them into a division, like we're having like an alumni weekend or a homecoming weekend, and we're doing this, we're inviting people back in, we're going to have the board members come in and interact. Then all of a sudden, it's not necessarily making a visit by 3 board members the be all and end all of the year. But if you start to do it a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, all of a sudden, the stands start to feel a little bit full. And as the field note says, performance follows that kind of support.
Right. And not the other way around.
Yeah.
And what you're doing in what you just said, Scott, it's fanness in both directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still thinking about FIFA, but I'm looking at, I'm thinking about France yesterday when they lost. They are still looking at the fans. They're looking at everybody who turned out for them and giving them love and thanking them for being there. You're creating it's a relationship, right? That's what's going to drive this.
Yeah, it's huge too. It's really fun to see when fan support actually drives performance in that kind of way. A couple seasons ago, the Phillies brought in a new guy, and he was known for batting average and hitting for average and doing really well. And he just started the season with a slump. And there was a fan effort to say, let's pick this guy up. So normally Phillies fans are known for booing, like really letting them know. The Phillies talk radio and the way that it's organized, it really evokes fans in the Philadelphia area being extremely vocal, unlike many other cities. But they decided it was a fan effort. I think they organized on social media that when this guy comes up to bat, we're going to give him standing ovations. And all that day, even though he was in a really bad batting slump, they gave him, and it was emotionally moving for a guy, especially somebody who's hitting in the high 120s, to be able to like.
And he knows their reputation.
Yes, right. And so the fact that they flipped that, it really did. It was a turning point in that guy's hitting season for him to just be able to recognize. Now, we could psychologically evaluate. Well, it relaxed him. He recognized that he belonged. This science of belonging might be a really huge deal here. But at the end of the day, the lesson is very clear. Performance follows support, not the other way around.
That support requires belief, right? They need to believe. So they believe in the individual. They believe in that human being, regardless of his record, right? So it's not you've had 4 quarters of outstanding performance and now I believe in you, X, Y, and Z organization.
Right.
I need to believe in you at like a deep level and understand that what you're doing matters and how you're doing it matters and it makes sense. And, the only way I'm going to know that is not from information and reports and press releases. It's because you involve me in your decision-making processes, need visibility and context into how you're leading the organization and what impact you're having and things along those lines. That kind of intimacy is what makes me want to cheer for you in good times and bad.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes the belief more than just like surface level. It's like there's a depth to it, and I think at the end in our Fandus sort of content in our playbook platform, there's a line that I've brought up from time to time that I really like because it points to the leader too right here, which is regardless of however many other people are in the stands. One of our partners says in one of our videos, people hit home runs in empty stadiums all the time.
Yep.
And you know that happens in your organization and other companies and other nonprofits. It's all the time. People are doing really great work and nobody's recognizing it. So even before you as a leader try to make sure the stands are filled, you need to be the one there cheering for their ball to go in, cheering for their performance and getting them out of the 120s and back up to what you know they can be.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
For those that have joined us today by way of Substack in the chat, thanks very much. I'm putting the link to today's field note that we've just been discussing there in chat for you to be able to click through. And if you've not taken time to read it, I invite you to do that and leave a comment. Let's continue the conversation there in the comment section. Scott, Jen, good to see you both. Thanks very much for joining us for this Lead Better today.
Likewise.